All right, let's
Hello.
transition into quarter three. You know who we got next? Absolute legend, giving us inspiration every single day. So if you're tuned in right now, get your notepads out. We got Mike Mumola. Mike, what's going on?
What is going on, everyone? Kevin is a rock
Mike.
star.
Yes, Mike. Do you know who Kevin is?
I don't know him personally. I know who he is, but I don't know him personally. Not yet. I will now, though.
You will now.
I will.
Mike, look, before we even bring you in, okay, people need to know that you are an inspiration daily to people. And, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, but I want to pick your brain with some wisdom. So for people right off the back, give me one thing that they could take today that can motivate them to tomorrow. Yeah. One thing.
Here it is. And I think it ties into some of the things that we were just talking about. We're in Q3 now, right? We just came out of halftime.
Yeah.
So I may be biased because I'm in the third quarter here. And I think that the third quarter is extremely important because it shows coming out of halftime the ability to make adjustments as a team or as an individual. And we all go into halftime, right? Like Kevin was just giving that incredible example of someone who thought they had a career-ending injury, ultimately went on to just incredibly outdo probably their wildest expectations. And so we all have those halftimes that happen to us, and it doesn't always happen exactly when we think halftime would be, but we have to use those opportunities to make the adjustments to come out in Q3 and Q4 and crush it. So
listen, Mike, come on, man. You can't give me a halftime speech like that and then come into the third. Listen, that's huge because the one thing that I've been evaluating, Mike, is I'm looking at businesses and how they ran and looking at, how I'm building my consulting business. I never can get away from the game of basketball. I look at how the companies are built. It takes teamwork. It takes roles. It takes, knowing how the coach is coaching the team. And so when you're saying making those halftime adjustments, those are pivots that happen all the time as being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I know you're an attorney by trade, but you're also an amazing entrepreneur. And that was a great pivot going into it. So somebody already, Mike, is in, and we got a question. Go ahead and bring Brandon T's question out. It said, how do you tell the difference between a passion project and an actual business idea?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brandon. And I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. In other words, I don't think that they have to be. There are passion projects that are specifically that, and there are business projects that are specifically that. And then there's that gray area that we talked about. And that really touches on the difference between being like an inventor and an entrepreneur. If you can monetize a passion project, well, you're in good shape. If it's all about the passion, that's okay too, as long as you're getting value out of it. So if you identify it as this is something that's important to me, this is a passion project, and this is the type of value that I'm getting out of it, that's fine. And you identify it as such. If it's something else and there's a business relation to it, if there's some way that you've monetized it and people are benefiting from it that way, more of a business relationship.
God, we broke it down. So when you're looking at entrepreneurship, Mike, you're surrounded with a dream team. Okay, and this is critical, right? We're talking about media abundance. We're talking about all the different things. You can bring that question back, Kennedy. Go ahead and bring it back. What advice could you give someone who has no money to start a business? Should they wait, or should they start the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on the type of business. I know that I've been involved in businesses with people that didn't have money, but this is what we focus on. And Chris, I think we've talked about this in the past. Money is one form of value exchange in our society, in our world. There are a lot of different ways that we exchange value. And even money now, we're starting to see it with the crypto and all kinds of money, but there are all other human elements of value. So the answer is the best way to succeed in business is to at least get started. If you never try, you're never going to succeed. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Isn't that what they said?
100%, because you never took them.
Because you never took them. But I've had people come to me and say, this is what I have. I am really, really good at this, and I don't have a lot of money. But I have time and I have passion and I have commitment and loyalty and energy and all of these things that I may not have because I'm busy doing this, but maybe I have the money. And so we partner up. And so you can find different things. It's about finding the value inside of you and then finding the things that you don't have. If it's money, then maybe you have to find someone that has money and you create a partnership. There's some sweat equity. Somebody comes in and invests and you can create it that way. Otherwise, there are certain businesses, of course, that you will have to wait for. If you want to do something that requires, an outlay of capital so you can buy assets, then you have to figure out how to get them if you don't have someone providing that to you. But for me, the best way to do it is to try to figure out how to get it. If the timing is right, you can't wait. And with a lot of what's happening in society now, things are moving so fast that if you wait until, let me wait until the right time, it may not ever be there. Quite frankly, it's never the right time. And
it's never going to happen. And we got another great question, but Mike, I'm not going to jump into that question yet. Marlon said, Mike has amazing hair.
Who's Marlon? I like Marlon.
Marlon says Mike has amazing hair. I couldn't let that just go by. So
Marlon, I'll take it. It's mine. 49 years old. It's mine. It has never been colored. I cut it a little bit, but thank you, Marlon. I take that.
It does look good. Kennedy, bring that question back. We have a lot of questions for you. Have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Who asked this question? I love this question. Not only have I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad a lot, not only have I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad a lot, it is probably the book that I've gifted to more people than any other book, including, Chris, I think some of the people that work with and around you. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, what he says in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is so fundamentally important to people trying to figure out how to become successful in business that you can't overlook it. There are others, the Richest Man in Babylon and Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, but Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, extremely, extremely valuable. And I think the second part of that question was, what lessons have you learned? If not, what positive or negative lessons have you learned from the rich? Here it is. And this sums up Rich Dad, Poor Dad in a lot of ways. I grew up poor. I didn't have a lot of money. I had a single mother. My mother worked 3 jobs, not poor in a lot of senses of the word, but we did not have a lot at all.
Right.
And so I didn't have the opportunity to learn about money the way other people learn about money. And it's a skill, it's a trade. There are lessons. There are very important lessons about how to make money. That's one, but also how to keep money and how to have money grow for you. How do you make the money work for you? We don't learn that in our educational system. We do not learn it. So I was my buddy Jay Gould just started a great new podcast and he was talking about it. And if you want to go learn something from someone, you have to find the people that have that skill. So that what I've learned from the rich, I was very fortunate, I think, because I became an attorney, because I began working with people that had some money. It was great because I represent them, but I also learned a lot from them. And then I had the opportunity to start building businesses with these people that had a lot of knowledge in this area, very specific knowledge about money. So yes, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, the lessons that I've learned, from people that are not just rich, but wealthy. Rich is one thing, and wealthy
is one thing. Wealth is a whole other word.
We don't want rich. We want wealth, right? Rich is one thing, but we want wealth. And what I've learned from people that are wealthy is that there are very specific things that you should do and that you should not do in order to attain it and to keep it. And those are things that unless you go look for them, you won't find them. I have friends who graduated from Ivy League schools with, as finance majors, and they go work. And it's not until they go work with wealthy people that they realize, wait, that's the way you do that. This is how you do this. This is how you keep this. This is how you amplify that. This is how you grow that. So yes, and there's so much out there now that you can get online. So
Mike, the questions are going crazy. Okay, we have one. What was some of the things you did daily to get your business off the ground?
Yeah.
Good question.
It's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah. The most important thing is to like my biggest thing that I tell young entrepreneurs is you have to stay passionate about it. You have to get up. You have to be passionate about it. You have to work at it. People think being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is great and it's glamorous. They don't see, you'll be eating bowls of soup, throwing it down your throat as a lunch in 2 minutes. They think it's these big fancy lunches all the time. It's not. Wake up feel the grind, wake up early. Like I have a guy now who I'm coaching who he started a great new business. I'm still up on him every morning, 4 a.m. Good morning, rise and grind. Here we go. So what do? Wake up early, plan the business early. Like, what am I going to do today to grow the business that I didn't do yesterday? And that ties into, Chris, a lot of what we talk about, you and I, with mindset and how we live. Morning routines, very important, especially for entrepreneurs.
Very important.
Like it's one thing.
Very important.
Yeah. It's one thing to be an employee and go to work and know that this is my job task for the day. This is what I have to do. Something totally different to be an entrepreneur, because you're carving your path, right? When you're an employee, the path has already been carved through the woods. You're walking down the trail. It's nice. When you're an entrepreneur, you're there with the machete. You're carving your way through the woods. You're carving that path. So the best way to do it is to sit down in the morning and really start to think about, what do I need to do today? And really articulate for yourself a list of, these are the things that I'm going to do today that will make a difference for tomorrow. And you keep doing that one day at a time, keep moving in the right direction. And that's how you start to build it. And then
that's the morning mindset. When I post that, it's going to say morning mindset. That's great. So we got one from Demetrius. It says, how would you rebuild if you lost it all?
Man, this question, Demetrius, is great. I think this is one of the, questions that will kind of resound with everything that I think and feel right now. I could never lose it all, because the material things that I have are a result of what I've become. And so it's like, if you take the idea of people who have studied and the material things are great, the business is great, the money is great, that's all great. But it's what you build inside of yourself that can't be taken. You become essentially invincible when you are healthy, when you are happy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. It all follows. And there's a lot to be said about successful people, that if you take everything from them and go drop them somewhere in a nation where they speak the language, within a few years, they'll make it all back. So what would happen? I mean, it could happen. I've taken hits. Just about everybody I know who is extremely successful has taken a lot of hits. It's some pretty hard hits, bankruptcies, physical ailments, different things. And they keep coming back, because it's a mindset. It's a way of life. So although everything around you can be taken, not necessarily this. And so that you still have.
And to piggyback on that, I told somebody the other day, I was like, I've mastered a particular craft. Even though I'm an entrepreneur, I've mastered my craft. So even if everything was taken away from me and I was dropped on any part of this earth, if I was healthy, I have my mental mind, within a week,
you're back at it.
I'm back. I'm fully back. I would have a home. I would have different things. It would take about 7 to 10 days to grind with nothing to figure out how to get the pieces that I need. But it would not take me long to reestablish everything that I know, as long as I have my brain.
Yeah. And that's really critical. And that goes back to the question. It's, you're wise enough to realize that you would recognize what you did wrong. That becomes part of the lesson, right? This is all, life. We can use the first, second, third, fourth quarters as a metaphor for life. And it's all part of that journey. So losing it, that's part of it. It doesn't mean that the game's not over. It's never over until it's over. And so that's just part of it. And having that mindset is what's going to keep moving you forward.
That's amazing. Let's see. Do we have another question? Okay. So Mike, because the questions are always coming in. Mike, so being an attorney by trade, what drove you? Because when you talk about your background and that you're coming from, not a family of wealth.
Yeah.
When you don't come from that background, it's almost like my attorney, Robert, you could pretty much do anything, but what pushed you into being an attorney? Is there a particular moment in time? Is there something that happened?
Yeah, I think it was both. I think it was a convergence of things. There's always been, I think, since I was a child, this yearning to want to help people. And it was in different ways throughout my life at different ages. But I've always, in any way, I've always wanted to help people. That's something that's important to me. I think I've seen that. I got that from my mother. I used to see her, despite the fact that she didn't have much of anything, what little she had, and she still does, she gave. And so that became a part of me. So wanting to help has always been a part of me. Then there was something that happened when I was in school. I was in college. I didn't law school really wasn't on my mind at all. And I had an event that I was involved with where the police were involved. I saw what happened. I didn't think that it was fair. And I really wanted to make sure that I understood how things should have happened. I wanted to make sure that nothing would ever happen to me or the people that I cared about again, that I would be able to help them if I had to. And I had this desire to want to go out there and do things in life. And I wanted to play the game. And if you want to play the game, you have to know the rules. So law school were the rules, and off I went to learn.
That's amazing. Kennedy, bring the question up. But Mike, earlier this morning, you know, I'm always searching for inspiration and for things. I was watching Jay-Z on YouTube where they were talking about where he had his transaction and, you know, he sold 50% of his company. And the question came from the interviewer. She said, you know, what made you create your company? And he is out of necessity, right? Like, this was taken away.
Yeah.
So he decided, I'm going to build this company. He was like, I didn't come up with Rock Nation because I was that genius to say I wanted to build this mega company. He's like, I came up with Rock Nation because no one would sign me and no one would offer him. So I see exactly what you're saying. You were in a situation that forced you to level up so that you can protect. It forced you to. And I think that's what happened to all of us.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, we either find opportunity or it finds us. It's bestowed upon us by the universe. And that's what happens. It's just about paying attention. Like, okay, why did this happen? What's the lesson here? Let me go forward, open that door, see what's behind that, and the next one and the next one.
Wow. So here's a great question. How do you manage your time?
Very, very carefully. This is, you know, I think this is one of the most overlooked things that people do when they're trying to either run a business or figure out their lives. You have to treat your calendar and your time as important as anything else. And if you don't, you will lose. And so one of the things that I tell people to do is do a time audit. Take a look at what you're doing throughout the day, keep track of it for a day, a week, a month, and look back and you'll realize, oh my goodness, look how much time, what's here and this and that. Once you realize what you're doing and what you're not doing, you can start really honing in on it. So it's like the way I've seen you coach your players. As soon as you get them doing something, then you start getting better, tighter. Do that with your calendar. One of the biggest questions, because I do a lot. And I do a lot in a lot of different places with a lot of different people. And people always say the same thing. How do you find the time? How do you find the time? And my answer is always the same. I don't find the time. I make the time. And that's what you have to do. You have to make the time. And how do you do that? You put it in your calendar. You're very specific about the time that you're on calls. How long are you in meetings? What time do you wake up in the morning? What do you do? And block that out and stick to it. So that's the way that you do it. You treat it as importantly as anything else. As my partner Meltzer says, you know, become a student of your calendar. Pay attention to it.
Right.
Most people, I think, go through the day without realizing it, and they look back and say the day's over, not realizing there were hours in there where you could have probably done some things.
Man, that's amazing. I love the wording. Do a time audit.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Logan, I hate when Logan and Kennedy show up because Mike had so much more to give.
Oh man,
Mike,
Logan, what is up?
Mike, what's going on?
Logan?
All right, but Chris, let me stop you there. He's got so much more to give. So let's go ahead and let Mike shout out his Instagram, his social media, so everyone can go follow him, get the daily motivation and inspiration.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, I'm all over social media. You can find me, Mike Mumola, Mumola. My website, same thing, MikeMumola.com. We are on Clubhouse all of the time, Friday mornings. We're on Clubhouse Wednesday mornings. We have a LinkedIn live show called Office Hours on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern.
Great show.
Anywhere, anytime. Thank you. And yeah, I feel really blessed to have people like you and your listeners, Chris, in my life, and my partners and the people I do things with. So giving back is a huge, huge component of everything that we are. So thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah.
Take it away, Lo.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right. That's another great episode of 48 Minutes a Game. But you know that we always have to end every episode with a gem. So you go ahead and close it out and give us your gem of the day, Chris.
Listen, my gem of the day is going to be piggybacking off of my business partner with Mike. we got to do time audits. Okay. And when we get off of our show today, I'm going to go back and do a time audit to see where my time went today. Am I maximizing my time? Is the time that I'm putting in reflecting the vision and the goals that I've set forth for myself? Every night at night before I go to bed, I do a wind down. So winding down allows for me to prepare for tomorrow. But I'm going to focus tonight, guys, and I challenge you to focus tonight on your time audit. If I could figure out how to put a time audit on my phone to keep me in check with social medias and different platforms, I think I can value my time just a little bit more. This has been another great episode of 48 Minutes of Game. We've had 3 special guests on that gave so much information to you guys. Hopefully you take it. If you want to contact me and my team, you can reach me via text message 310-388-8610. Have a great night. We out.